and welcome to SCORE's webinar of Understanding Fraud, How to Recognize and Deal with It. I'm very proud to be working with Riley Boyd, who works out of the Green Hills office of First Horizon Bank. She is quite knowledgeable about fraud. She helps people with this. She said she's even gone to court to help some of her clients with their fraud issues. So this is where you want to be today. This workshop is one of many that the Nashville chapter of SCORE offers. I encourage you to go to our website, score.org/Nashville. Click on Take a Workshop, and you will see all the workshops that we have available. And it's constantly changing. And I'm adding first quarter 25 in there now. So we've got a bunch coming in. So without further ado, hopefully we will be having Riley's peer, Ryan Keeler, coming in as well. So he must be on a call or something. But in the meantime, Riley, would you like to start us off, please?
Yes. So thank you, Michelle, for the warm introduction. I appreciate that so much. This is part of our First Horizons First Financial Education series. And I'm extremely passionate and excited to be here with you all today. Educating on financial wellness and just financial education in general is something I'm super passionate about. I don't feel it is taught enough throughout the various programs that we as humans go through in life. And as I was telling Michelle earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And so my hope for today is that I can share a little bit of knowledge and help you feel a little bit more at ease dealing with fraud in both your professional life as well as your personal life. And hopefully you learn some new tidbits from this. I've got some fun stories to share. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I just want to cover kind of our purpose, our values, and our action here at First Horizon. Our purpose is to help clients unlock their full potential with capital and counsel. What this looks like is putting clients first. We care about people. We commit to excellence in everything that we do. We elevate equity and we foster team success. And for us, that is owning the moment. We listen and we understand and we deliver. This is what we live by here at First Horizon. It's something that I'm so proud to be a part of, and I'm so excited to get to share with each and every one of you. Here's a little bit about me. I am recently promoted to the position that I'm in, but I have a wealth of history and background in banking. I have a passion for impacting individuals and being an advocate, like I said, for financial wellness. Outside of my primary job role here at First Horizon, I also serve on our Women's Initiative Nashville, and I am a member of their Talent and Development Committee. Additionally, I'm also a First Power Council representative for our Middle Tennessee region, and I get to sit on a board with some of our executives to discuss how we can further elevate the associate experience here at First Horizon. Fun fact about me, I used to be a licensed cosmetologist and own my own salon. And I was also a two-time American rock crawling national champion. They love to throw that one in there. If you're not familiar with what that is, look up rock bouncing on YouTube when we get off of here. You'll be like, oh, wow, that's kind of crazy. Imagine monster trucks, but smaller versions. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this. I wanna be respectful of everybody's time today. So we're gonna start off by talking a little bit about what is fraud and really understanding kind of the nitty gritty of what it can be, as small as something as, somebody looked over your shoulder and saw your debit card number, to something as elaborate as the mail schemes where they will steal checks out of the mail and wash them and rewrite them. So did you know that 1.7 million Americans reported falling victim to some type of fraud or scam in 2019? This number resulted in a loss of $1.9 billion, according to the Federal Trade Commission. So that's a lot of Americans and a lot of loss that are experiencing this. So when it happens to you, The number one thing we want you to remember is you are not alone. Not only are you not alone in that this isn't just happening to you, but we are also here to help guide you through the next steps to help overcome and kind of hopefully recoup some of the loss that can occur when fraud happens. The the TOP type of fraud reported to the FTC was imposter scams, in which a caller pretends to be, the top type of fraud reported to the FTC was imposter scams, in which a caller pretends to be calling from a government, a business, or a relative with an emergency. People reported losing nearly $667 million to these imposters in 2019, and most frequently paying the scammers with a gift card. This happens all of the time. Another form of an imposter scam that I see a lot is something that we call the family member scam. And so what will happen is you will have somebody call you and essentially say, we are from the Davidson County Sheriff's Office. We have your family member here, and we are needing you to bring $10,000 in cash, gift cards, money orders, etc., to come release them. We don't want to take them to jail. We don't want to have to press charges. If you bring us this and meet us at this location, we'll give you your family member back. It's quite crazy, the schemes that these imposters will come up with. Another one that we've seen is people will actually clone phone numbers of financial institutions, and they will call clients and pretend to be a representative of the financial institution, and they will request sensitive information. We will never do that. We will never call you and ask you for your social security number. We will never call and ask you to provide us with a code to verify who you are. If you're calling into us, that is something that we do, but we will never call you requesting that information. And that gets a lot of people. Most of the times, if you're receiving a code from your financial institution, it will specifically say at the bottom, do not give this code out to anyone. It is a personal code that you use to enter into the online applications to verify who you are when you're logging on to something like an online banking platform or things of that nature. It is not for you to give to somebody over the phone. 9 out of 10 times what they're doing is they're trying to get into your online banking, and they've cracked your password because it's not super secure. A lot of people love to use their first, last name, and their year of birth as a password. That's something that if people have access to your information or know very little about you, they can obtain that and very easily access it. The second step of security, if they're able to bypass that, is to get that code. And then that's where at the point that they will call you and they will say, hey, we need a code to verify who you are. Again, that's where that don't give this code out to anybody message comes in. You want to make sure that you're protecting your data. Worst comes to worst, you can always say, it's okay, that's fine. I will call my personal bank representative and verify myself with them. You can always feel free to hang up and call back in. Even if it is a legitimate financial institution calling you, we will always completely understand. And there are multiple ways that you can speak to somebody and verify them without having to wonder if you are giving your sensitive information to somebody who is an imposter. Next, let's talk a little bit more in depth about what identity theft is, which is another form of fraud. Identity theft is a fraudulent acquisition and use of a person's private identifying information, social security number, or other personal information to open new accounts, make purchases, get tax refunds, etc. It can occur during cyber attacks, which are data breaches, internet, routers, cameras, link devices. The Amazon Alexas have been known for that as well. Form jacking, which is hijacking credit card information from online payment systems. Ransomware and malware. New account fraud, which is like student loans, personal loans, credit cards, etc. And account takeover, which is using personal information to take over accounts. I want to talk first about the cyber attacks. So one that happened really big this year that a lot of Americans are aware of is the Jericho Pictures Incorporated company. They got hacked. They're also known as the National Public Data. They exposed approximately 2.9 billion individuals to identity theft when a hacker group known as USDOP hacked into their systems and were able to retrieve that sensitive data that then went out onto the black market to sell. That's something that got swept under the rug pretty quickly. I believe I heard about it in the news for about 1 to 2 days. And then after that, it was never talked about again. And it was a huge breach of security for this company and for millions of Americans. The National Public Data Company, they are responsible for a majority of the background checks that occur in the United States. So chances are, if you've done a background check, they have your information. Something that I did personally to protect myself, because working in at a financial institution, I have to have background checks every time I get a promotion or every time I transfer or every time that they need to renew my information. So I've had probably 6 or 7 background checks in my time working in finance. And so I had one as recent as this year. And I was very concerned, or January of this year, so before this hack happened, I'm very concerned with my information getting out there. The credit bureaus make it incredibly easy for you to be able to go online and freeze your credit free of charge. It used to be an $80 fee to freeze and unfreeze your credit. They have now made that free to all Americans. So you just log on to TransUnion, Equifax, and use those websites to then go in and you can just hit freeze my credit. If you were wanting to do a loan application for a credit card, a mortgage, a car loan, anything like that, you will have to go in and unfreeze it. But at the time of your application, I would disclose that, and then they can tell you when it's a safe time for you to unfreeze it for them to pull your credit. Luckily, things do still get reported. So if you are building credit and you want, let's say you have a credit card and you want the credit card payment to reflect as it's paid on time, those things all still report. Nobody can pull your credit, though, to open up new things such as those loans, lines of credits, things of that nature. So it's a great way to protect yourself when things like a cyber attack do happen. The other one I want to touch on really quickly is an account takeover. So we see this often where in businesses particularly, there will be somebody who is like an assistant or an admin who has access to all of this information, and they may not directly have access to the bank account, but they have a general idea of what's in the bank account. And it's usually with larger companies where they will go in and they'll call the bank, which they typically already have a relationship with because they're an assistant. And the bank representative will not do their due diligence in, verifying that they are actually a signer on the account, which is somebody who can actually change the information, or they will do it via the phone and they will already have the business owner's social, date of birth, address, things of that nature due to job responsibilities. And so they're able to verify themselves, even though they're an imposter, and change things such as a phone number, the address, request a new debit card, things like that. And so what that causes is when we are cashing a check, let's say you give a contractor a check for $10,000 because he did some work for your company, and they bring it to First Horizon to cash it. And the phone number on file, we call for most check cashings unless the person presenting the check banks with us. So if they are a non-client with us and they are cashing your check with us, we always call you to verify that you wrote the check, who it's made out to, and what the amount is, because of all of the fraud that we see. And so we'll call the number on file that was changed by the assistant. The assistant will answer, say that they're Mrs. Smith of ABC company, and say, yes, I wrote this to Mr. Smith for $10,000. Well, we weren't actually talking to the company owner, and that person that's sitting in front of us is an imposter. And so they'll actually take over the account and essentially drain the funds out of the account before anybody can realize what's happening. There are some ways that we are able to go in and prevent this from happening. I've actually caught an account takeover in action. We don't change sensitive information like that, at least for our financial institution, over the phone. Some smaller institutions will, but we do not. We also have this wonderful thing where it allows us to pull up previous checks you've written and compare the signature with the signature that we're seeing on that check. So that's a really great way for us to be able to see, okay, is this the signature of the actual owner? The other thing that we can look at, and this is going to sound really crazy, but this is how detailed it gets, is we will go in and we will look at how you write your dates. So like, let's say you normally write your dates 12/09/2024, or if you write it November 9th, 2024. That's something that a lot of people aren't going to know how you write your dates, but you're typically pretty consistent with it. And if all of your checks that we can previously see are the 12/09/2024, and this one is November 9th, 2024, that's immediately a red flag for me. This person who normally writes these checks isn't the one who wrote this one. And then I'm going to do further due diligence to confirm and possibly deny the transaction. Does anybody have any questions on this one at all? We good?
Nobody's coming through.
Perfect. Alrighty, financial identity theft is a criminal activity that involves assessing someone's personal information for fraudulent financial gain. Again, this is something I touched on just a little bit with my previous example, but this can be most commonly shown in stolen credit cards or credit card numbers, stolen bank account numbers, stolen debit card numbers, stealing personal information for financial gain, again, applying for the new loans, having that birthday, that social security card, that address, things of that nature. This is where, even though the people that you trust most, you want to be wary. You want to make sure that you are protecting all of your financial information to prevent anybody who may have access from gaining it. You want to make sure that you're putting you don't leave your credit card numbers out and about. If you do have a credit card for an associate, you want to make sure that it has their name on it and it's tied to their person and not just something that is yours, so that they then have access to all the funds you have access to. There are ways to set limits for that. You can even set specific stores they can spend things on. That's a great way to protect yourself in that form. You also want to keep any bank documents that you have. Typically, I suggest keeping them in a locked drawer, and keeping the key on your person and having a backup key, maybe, in a safe at your house or somewhere where people who shouldn't have access won't have access. Another thing is the personal information. Be careful with who you give your birth date, your address, your social security number, even your driver's license number out to, when in terms of dealing with colleagues and maybe associates and employees, because that information may seem very small, but in the grand scheme of things, it takes very little things to be able to go and apply for a new loan, a new credit card, or set up a rental property. If I can talk, I'm so sorry. Or even going to apply for local utilities. They could be getting a new house and they're like, I don't want to pay for this. Let me just put in my boss's name. And they have you would think, minuscule information, and it would take more than that. But a lot of processes and systems are very simple. So just keep being mindful and making sure that you're aware of where your data is at and who has access to it. Here's some more examples of how they do it. Dumpster diving for financial statements. When you're ready to get rid of your statements that you have for your accounts, make sure you take it to a local financial institution. We have locked shred bins that we have a service provider who comes in. Getting a little bit of feedback. Okay. To dispose of those things. If you don't have a shredder at home, I wouldn't recommend just tossing them in your trash can. Again, take them to somewhere like your financial institution and they will be able to dispose of them properly for you. Stealing mail for account statements or credit card offers. That's another big one that we see. Stealing wallets and purses. I think that's probably the most common, especially if you are, out in downtown areas. You just want to be very mindful of, do you have a purse that can easily just be left? Or is it attached to your person? For me personally, my wallet is on the back of my phone. When I go out, I don't even take my wallet with me. Tap to pay is a beautiful thing. And so I just have that on my phone and I leave my wallet in my car, in my locked console, in my locked vehicle, just to really protect that information. Shoulder surfing or at ATMs or point of sale systems to steal PIN numbers. Always, whenever you're entering your PIN number at a gas pump, at Walmart, wherever you may be, make sure you are covering that PIN pad so that if somebody is taller but standing behind you, they can't see what your PIN number is. Credit card skimming is another really big one at point of sale systems. That is where they will insert a plastic piece over top of where you would swipe or insert your card, and it will actually take a copy of your card so that they are able to duplicate it. Again, that's also where that looking over your shoulder to get your PIN number. If there's a skimmer on there and the guy behind you, that's his skimmer, he's looking at you, he's got your card number already. Well, now he's got your PIN number. So just be very mindful of how you go about. I always pull on the card reader before I insert my card. I probably look crazy doing it, but this happens a lot more often than you would think. Phishing, which is emailing bait to obtain personal information. I know I get the LinkedIn ones all the time, or the UPS ones, where it'll say, we've got your package at our warehouse, but we need to find you or pay a fee to come get it. That is a notorious phishing email. They just want to get your credit card information. That is all they are trying to do. Please delete, block, ignore those emails. Phishing, which is voicemail bait to obtain personal information. They'll call you on a recorded line and it'll be like, hello. It'll sound very real. Hello, is this Riley Boyd? And they're looking for you to say things like, yes, no, because they will use voice identification to get you to pass through some of the screenings for your financial institutions to gain access to your information. Malware, everyone's pretty familiar with that, but that's malicious software that affects your computer. Who's at risk? Again, anyone and everyone that you can think of. A lot of families, especially if you have a household income over $100,000, military members are way more at risk because they're not here, they're not at home, they're far away, and so their information and their data, they can't carry that with them. So people having access to their home, things like that, puts them more at risk. Deceased individuals, social media users. I know a ton of people love to use like Sheen and things like that. I personally won't use it because to me, I'm just like, I'm not putting myself through that. I'm not putting myself at risk to get my information stolen. And then again, repeat victims. So typically, if you fall for it once, a lot of times people will fall for it again. So you just want to be super mindful of just really asking yourself, hey, does this make sense to me? Would UPS really be texting me and making me pay a fee to get my package? Ask yourself the questions. Sometimes I'm like, how did I not see that before asking myself the question? But just be very cognitive of anything and everything that you're doing when it comes to your financial information. I do see a question from Michael. Hi, Michael. So he says, what can they do with credit card offers, not the newly mailed credit card, and what can be done with bank account numbers alone, which are readily found on the bottom of checks we issue to others and that others issue to us? That's a great question. So the credit card offers, I'm going to be totally honest, I have not seen a whole lot done with the credit card offers, aside from the fact that sometimes, again, if you have that date of birth, the social, things of that nature, they can go ahead and since you're quote pre-approved for the credit card offer, you have to enter very little information for it to fully come through and you be approved. They can enter the wrong address and get it sent to them. That's the one that I've seen most often with that. But again, I've not seen it happen a whole lot. With the bank account numbers alone, it's really nothing can be done with them, but that is where you want to be careful because like I said, when you pair that, like the bank account and the routing numbers, everybody has access to those. But when you pair that with the sensitive data, such as a social security number, a driver's license number, what your date of birth is, what your address is, things like this, they really allow people to be able to call into the financial institution and say, hey, my name is Mr. Smith. My bank account number is 12345678. I want to change the address on file. Okay, Mr. Smith, what is your date of birth and the last four digits of your social for me? My date of birth is January 1st, 1972. The last four of my social are 1234. Perfect. I will be happy to get that address changed for you. Well, now you're not getting your statements. Now, anytime they're trying to mail you something, it's going to the person who fraudulently is being an imposter for you. Does that make sense, or do you have any more questions on that? Because I may not have explained that perfectly, Michael. Okay, perfect. Good to go. We will be moving forward then. So
Riley,
now we're gonna, oh yeah.
you may not have noticed, but Ryan is on.
Hi,
Hi, I I'm extremely embarrassed. A bit of an awkward situation here. I think my computer actually is an hour behind, or yeah, behind, because I actually have this meeting set up for 1 o'clock, and I just so happen to log on to my computer to get up on this meeting early, and as it turns out, it's been going for half an hour. So
Ryan.
I
Okay.
humbly apologize. I had no idea that was the issue. But I am love to still be able to assist in some way, shape, or form. Um, I want to, if I can, just say a quick hello to the people who are watching. My name is Ryan Keeler. I am the RRM based out of Spring Hill, Tennessee. Humbly apologize for my lateness. And it looks like Riley, I think you're at least halfway through. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much
Ryan,
for, yes, ma'am.
what does the acronym stand for?
I'm the retail relationship manager. I have a very
Okay,
unique position within the bank.
very good. Well, welcome. We're so glad you could make it.
Thank you. I am very glad to be here as well, late as I am.
If you want to, I will kind of for through this next portion. This is the portion I was really excited about because it's got all my examples in it. But if you want to go through this, I can do the PowerPoint for you, and then I can kind of just jump in when I have something to add, if that's okay, Ryan.
Sounds awesome.
Awesome.
And everyone can hear me okay, am I right?
Yep.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. Well, as we all know, I'm kind of hopping in here, but I have given this presentation about 3 dozen times, and I could talk about fraud until I'm blue in the face. So I'm very excited to talk about this with you guys today. Go ahead and hop to the next slide for me, if you will. As I'm sure we've already talked about quite a lot, and what fraud is and how it impacts us on a regular basis. We're going to go through just a couple of different examples on what some of that fraud looks like. There's a couple of photos on that page you see there that give great examples, but a major one that we used to see a lot more in the past, still see it to this day, is ATM skimmers. Basically, they are pieces of device, or they are pieces of gear that sits and overlays on top of existing ATMs, or you see actually quite a lot of them at gas stations. And really, the ultimate mentality behind them is to capture the magnetic strip on the back of your card. So, for example, most of the time we are still using, or we are using the chip on our debit cards or credit cards, and that's been a really great piece of technology. But that magnetic strip still exists. And so whenever you put your card into an ATM and it goes in and there's an ATM skimmer that's sitting on there, when you're pulling that card out, it's actually still gathering and getting your card information via the magnetic strip. And so you will see a lot of places have, as you can see in the photos here, you'll see that green one. It looks like an exact replica. They tend to be really good. You'll actually see some of them for your PIN number as well. There's an overlay on the PIN pad. You see a lot of that for places like gas stations, and the goal is to get it on there quickly and easily without the person who is running that gas station, for example, to notice. And it's also needs to be removed quickly to get out of there quick. Now, one last thing I'll mention about them is that they run off of short wave radio frequencies. So what that basically means is that typically when you see these in existence, the person who is gathering that information is not far away. That typically means they are sitting, if it's at a gas station, they are sitting idling in a car and gathering that information because it needs to transfer that via shortwave. So what I typically do for starters when it comes to the ATM skimmers is wiggle and shake everything. So when you go to a gas station, the first thing I do is I kind of just see if anything can be taken off easily. Like I said, these need to be removed as quickly as they're placed. And then what I will do is I will kind of see if there's a car idling nearby and they're not looking to go inside or anything. And then if I if I see that there's a car sitting there and I wiggle and everything and there's nothing coming off, typically you feel okay, right? But if there's a car idling, to me, I take that as okay, that is a red flag. And I'm going to make sure that there's nothing going to come off of there. Really quick, I saw from the chat there, the question was, can gas station owners be held responsible for skimmers in their machine? I don't believe so.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Now, I know that typically the move, what they'll do is they'll file a police report to inform police of it, but typically no, unless they can somehow trace it back to the people who are held responsible. But that's a good question.
I would say the only exception to that would be if for some reason it was the gas station owner who put it on there. Because obviously, but that's going to be the only case where you see that. This is also too where I was talking about earlier, where we want to be cognitive of if they don't have that pin capture overlay to capture your pin number, it could also be somebody standing near you who can see your pin number. So you want to make sure that you're covering that, you know, even if it is quote safe and you've pulled and you've made sure that that's not coming off, you still want to make sure that you're covering your pin number because somebody could be watching you.
Yeah.
There's wonderful technology that allows you to see all the time. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And that's also why you're seeing some of the bullet points there. It says there's the card reader overlays and everything. There's the skimmers, but there's also hidden cameras, pin capture overlays, and the ATM faceplates. All of those are ways to also get that pin number because with debit cards, you need that pin. And if they can get it, they kind of have free reign, right? So yeah, and then ATM faceplates are fascinating. I've actually seen a couple of them. I looked up some examples where it's literally they replace the entire front of the ATM. And so it almost looks like there's no seams. It all looks like it's supposed to be on there. And it really is extremely fascinating, some of the technology, and horrible. Because you would hope that these people who obviously are smart enough to make amazing replicas would be doing something good with their lives, but instead they decide not to. So let's go ahead and jump to the next slide. I think we covered enough on that. Okay, here's actually some more examples. So I want you to notice that first one, the one on the far left. And before I actually go into it, let me jump into this question that we just got here. Can we expect an RFID blocking wallet we buy from Amazon, for example, to fully protect against those persons in busy areas who pass by and use some handheld device to get all the details off credit cards in a wallet or a purse? RFID technology is great. I mean, I believe from my experience, it's been nothing but good things. I will say this, Riley, if you have opinions on this, please feel free to chime in. My humble opinion is this latest technology using tap to pay has been a really great bit of technology. In the sense of there's no physical swipe or chip scan. It's all done via the air, via signals. And that signal does not go out to retrieve your card information until until you're ready to pay. It's really fascinating. However, I do believe that in the future, I feel like we might have more issues because I'll put it this way, just like technology is ever changing, so is fraud. Fraud will always still find a way to adapt. It's usually a step behind or two, which is why most people will encourage you to constantly update your phone, for example, because of the firewall updates and so on. Most of the time, fraudsters will actually be on you, be on the technology curve pretty quick. So I actually just got a message from Miss Riley. We are just a fun little mess today. Riley's Zoom just crashed. And so I am actually quickly grabbing this PowerPoint presentation so I can continue it. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. So let me hop on here and do this real quick. Sorry, everybody. This is not usually how this goes down. Share this screen, share. Okay. Whoops, that's not what I want. Apologies. Okay, can everyone see that okay? Am I on? Yes, I see a yes from Miss Michelle. Thank you so much. I'm gonna swing down to where we were. Okay. Slide is in full screen.
Into
Can we see it
presentation
full
mode.
screen? Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Slideshow, front slide. Better?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Okay. Let me quickly jump over to the chat and let me read that question there. For those who are not using Tap to Pay, from what you know, are these individual RFID blocking sleeves for credit cards, passports, and the full RFID blocking cases for the wallet able to block these devices that strip information from the cards? From my experience, yes. I have noticed, or from what I have seen, it does block. And so I usually try to make sure I purchase a wallet that has those RFID blocking sleeves, or something of the sort, just to overly protect myself in general. So, hope that answers your question. With that, let me hop over to my slideshow over here. Okay. All right. So the POS skimmers, I want you to look on the one on the far left here. So it says on the left-hand side, the left one is suspicious and the right one is safe. And the reason why that is you can notice that the one on the far right side, it's only going in a certain amount. It's only going in about like a third or 2/3 of the card is going in. And that's because it's just reading the chip. But if your card goes in most of the way, that's usually a bad sign. Now, I did have a really great question on one of the financial wellness events I've given in the past. They said, if your card goes in all the way, are you screwed? Because you got to get the card out. The answer to that question is no. It's still okay. What I suggest you do is call your bank immediately and inform them, hey, I think my card information was just stolen. In most banks, I know that we do here at First Horizon, you are able to get a new card made for you same day. Now, it means you have to go get a new debit card, and that's no fun, but it is better than having fraudulent activity happening on your account. So, yeah, there is ways to still protect you, and I usually tell people get on it as soon as possible. You can also see that middle picture there. For those who don't know, these gas pumps do have a void label on it. So if it's been tampered with or if the actual panel has been removed in any way, you'll actually see the words void pop up in white letters saying that something has happened to that seal, saying it's been removed. So if you ever see that, avoid that pump. And then lastly, you can see the skimmer on that far right side, where it's just an addition. It just looks like an addition to it. I always recommend look for seams, look for where things have been added to the card reader. If it looks like something's been added, then it might be a good idea to go somewhere else or wiggle and shake everything as much as possible. So let me hop over to the next screen here. Phishing. Phishing is fascinating and horrible. I also want to preface by saying we all, no matter what the vocation, we all have fallen for some sort of scam. I know that I usually get a show of hands whenever I will ask this question. But I'll just flat out say everybody has fallen for an email phishing scam in some way, shape, or form. And I'll give you an example. My wife and I, last year, right around this time, we ended up in a situation where my wife was buying my son a Christmas gift. And it just so happened to coincide. She received an email from Amazon that mentioned that there was a problem with the delivery and to click this link to see what's going on with it. And it just was perfect timing. And my wife, who in her own right is an executive assistant and is used to, looking out for phishing scams. And she ended up clicking on the link. And sure enough, same day, we had a fair amount of money taken out of our account that put us in a really big bind. So what these phishing scams do is basically they want you to click a link. Keep that in mind for everything moving forward. If there is a link added to your email that you're expected to click, immediately practice caution. Immediately start doing a breakdown. And this is how you do a breakdown. Start looking for the things that you see on these bullet points. If the email looks like it's from a company that you may know and trust, and in this example, it's Netflix, it's going to use the logo, it's going to use the header. It says that it says on here, it says your email says your account is on hold because of a billing problem. Okay, that seems weird. The thing to be gained in that situation is that they want you to click on the link and put in your billing information. And it says that if the email has a very generic opening, like "Hi dear," as you can see in this email, or "To whom it may concern." Usually these companies know that they need to contact the individual. They will use your name typically. And if you don't see that in the email, it's a red flag. And then the last bullet point says the email invites you to click on a link to update your payment details. Right. So let me click on this next page here. I have a couple of examples of it. You see on the Amazon one, it says, "Dear client," that's usually a red flag. But if you look at the top, it says that this email is coming from Amazon, and then it's a management at mazoncanada.ca. Look at the email addresses. Looking at the web address is a big portion of this in looking for fraudulent activity or phishing scams. If it does not fully state the full name of the company it's from, then you will know it's not legit. On top of that, if you go over to the link that they want you to click, typically emails, I know Outlook does this, and Gmail does this as well. If you hover your mouse over the web address, it will actually tell you where it's going. And so you can see in this red lettering here, it says hovering over the link reveals that it points to a non-Amazon site, http://redirect karaskej.com. That is not an Amazon site, and you know that that's probably going to be fraudulent in some way, shape, or form. So that's a great example as well. A couple of tips and tricks. You also have another example of one of the PayPal one on the right here. Same idea. I won't go too far into the weeds with it, but yeah. During this time of the season, fraudulent phishing activities are rampant. They are everywhere. And a lot of that is because a lot of fraud happens in knowing the perfect time to hit. So in this case, we got Christmas right around the corner. A lot of people are making online purchases. In fact, this year we hit a new record high of how many online purchases were made. You can guarantee you that those fraudulent, those people who are doing the fraud, they are out there sending a lot of these kind of emails, trying to trick somebody into perfect timing. I need to check on that delivery, or oh, maybe I had an old card on file. So the other one that we see a lot of is spam texts. I see it constantly. Let me share a fun story, if I may. I used to work for a company that my father-in-law owned. I was the head of marketing and sales for this company, and I built our website. I also, built all of our advertising and marketing supplies. And because I was also the head of sales, I put in my phone number as a way for my customers to contact me, meaning my actual direct cell phone number was on the internet and available for anyone to use. If at all possible, I know that we are all aspiring business owners here. Try to avoid that. Here's why. My phone, no, actually, before I say this, the company that I used to work for my father-in-law, is now debunked. It's been closed for a long time now, at least 6 years. I still, to this day, get spam phone calls and text messages saying, "You're qualified for a tax return. Please contact us at this number," or any of that. It is insane, the amount. And it's gotten to the point where I've actually changed my number because it got to be so bad. I went on the do not contact call list, the National Registry, the whole 9 yards. I still was getting contacted. So when you see emails, or I'm sorry, text messages like you see in this example, it's the same mentality behind the emails, where they basically want to create an urgency for you to click this link. You want to know, oh my gosh, what happened to my FedEx package, as you can see here? Why is it, where is it? In this particular case, it says it's waiting for you to set delivery preferences. Oh, I needed to come to my house. Click the link. Make sure that you don't fall victim to those. And then what happens is, if you do click that link, you know what, I'll share what can happen in just a moment. So how do we avoid falling victim to fraudulent activity? For starters, great way to do it is monitor your credit. You don't know if your identity's been stolen unless you are keeping tabs on your credit score. Obviously, protect your information, create the strongest possible password, review your banking statements, protect your devices. These last two I wrote in myself. In fact, I think I did this entire slide. When you are receiving a phone call or an email, hang up and call the source. The worst case scenario is you could just say, "I didn't feel confident in the person I was talking to, and I wanted to make sure I was talking to an accurate representative of your business." I've given that advice, and there's been so many people who have contacted me later who said, "I did what you said. I hung up and I called them, and they said, we were not calling you." And then the last thing in big letters, do not click the link. Worst thing you could do is you can go onto their website directly, and you can call the help number or email their help desk or whoever or whatever, but go to a valid source that you know to be accurate before you click the link. I won't go into all of this in particular. I know we only have a few minutes left here. Let's see here.
We do have a question in the chat from Michael.
Oh, yes. Okay, let's see.
That's asking, are the businesses able to tell you if the call you just received was legitimate or not? And I can speak to this a little bit as well. Not always. Sometimes we have, like, some companies have ways to log exactly who has called you. Others don't. Sometimes we can solely tell based off of the information you're giving us. Again, how I discussed earlier, how some scammers will clone financial institutions' phone numbers. They'll call you, they'll say, "We're from so-and-so, we need a code that we're going to send you." If you tell me that somebody called you asking for a code, I'm going to tell you right there that it wasn't legitimate. So there's sometimes, I wish I had a better answer. It just depends on the business. And just to touch on what Ryan was saying about the monitoring your credit report, that's again where I was talking about the public data breach that happened earlier this year. And the credit company's offering it now free of charge for you to freeze your credit. It's a great way to protect yourself as well if you are aware that your information could have or probably gotten leaked.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It also says, also I've heard the risk of a phone being taken over or sensitive information being taken from a phone is low if a link is open on an iPhone, for example, versus on a desktop. True or false? Ooh, interesting question. I've not heard that. However, I could believe that. And I think a lot of that is because large corporations such as Apple have to be compliant when it comes to the most updated security technology. So, for example, that might be the case simply because Apple has to constantly update their technology and update their software. Whereas maybe you have an old PC, for example, or a desktop computer that isn't equipped with the latest technology, and you can be more susceptible of it. But I will say, to use your example there, Michael, having your soft or your hardware taken over is a legitimate thing. And if I may, I'm going to share one more story because I know we need to wrap up here soon, but I'll promise I'll make it fast. I had an example of fraud. It was the worst I had seen, where I had a gentleman come into my office and say, "I've been had." Okay, let's talk about it, sir. He ended up telling me that he came into the bank the weekend, or I'm sorry, the following Friday. This was a Monday, and he said that he received on his computer that it was Microsoft saying that he needs to call Microsoft for the latest update. He called them. There was some craziness, confusion about that they accidentally owe him money and that they were going to go ahead and send that money over to his account. And so they said, look at your account, make sure that you see that on your online banking that you saw that we paid you back. And then they said that, oh my goodness, sir, we accidentally, instead of transferring $33 to your account, we accidentally just transferred $33,000 to your account. Do you see that on your online banking? And he did. He saw it on his online banking, $33,000 added to his account. So they basically begged and pleaded for him to wire that money back. And so he went to the bank and they kept him on the phone the entire time. And he wire transferred, an international wire transferred $33,000 from his account to an offshore account. And he signed off for it and everything. Now, if he was at any point asked the banker, what's my current balance? Nothing would have ever happened. But the reality was he was kept on the phone. They were also, he later told me, they were kind of starting to be a little threatening that they were going to take everything from him. So he felt pressured to send this wire off. And so what ended up happening was that he sent that wire through. He came and saw me Monday and he asked me to reverse that wire. I did everything I possibly could for this man. I fought, scratched, clawed, I did everything I could. The reality was I couldn't really do anything. And as soon as it hit the offshore bank, that money was immediately withdrawn. Within an hour of that money hitting that bank, it was pulled out of the account. And there was no way I can get that money back. And I had to tell that gentleman, I can't help you in this situation. This is $33,000 that I can't get back to you. So I have met a lot of people who told me that, well, the bank will always pay me back. The bank will always take care of me. You know, they have a policy regarding that. And it's true, we do. If you come to the bank and you say, I have a dispute, there was a transaction that was done that wasn't me, you're right. We will make a dispute for you and we will make sure that that fraudulent activity is taken care of. But if you, especially when you wire, it is something that is very difficult for us to get back. What had happened with this particular gentleman was that he clicked that link and he gave access to the fraudsters into his computer. They told him to sign on to his online banking to check his account balance. And what they did was they managed to go into the coding to his online banking and change what the amount in his account looked like. It was not accurate to what his account said, but they changed the coding to represent $33,000 more in his account than what he actually had. If he went to the bank and asked, what is my balance? They would have told him that it was $33,000 shorter than what he saw on his desktop. And so that is why I always say, do not click the link. Worst case scenario, you question it and you get legitimate answers and it takes a few more minutes. I see that we have a couple questions off to the side. Let me go ahead and address those real quick. So I understand correctly, what are the risks at hand / most common bad things that can happen when clicking on a bad link texted to us or in an email we open on our phones? Well, I just gave one really awful situation. Is that one of the things that whenever you click a link, within the coding of that link, it can actually give the fraudster access to that device. That is one thing that can happen. Another bad thing that can happen is it directs you to a website that they have control over, and you're asked to put in your account information or your debit card information. If that's the case, you've given them very sensitive information. They can actually take that and use that as they will, and they will. Those are really the two major things. Riley, can you think of anything else?
Yeah, sometimes it can also introduce malware to, I wouldn't say it necessarily happens with your phone, but specifically on a desktop. That's your most common form of how like malware enters your computer, is by you clicking on links and things of that nature. Also, just to quickly wrap up, I know we've got about a minute left. If you guys want kind of more of an in-depth explanation as to what he just talked about with that example, there's a movie called The Beekeeper. It is a little graphic, so maybe watch the trailer before watching it. But it details the process that these hackers do phenomenally. Like, it is incredibly accurate. If you still feel like you're not getting it, and you may be able to just watch some highlights from that movie on YouTube or something, but it details it perfectly. Just to wrap up, Michelle had told me at the beginning of this call, she's going to get this recording sent out to everyone by the end of the week. So thank you, Michelle, for doing that. We appreciate you. And then finally, always make sure to schedule your personalized financial wellness checkup with either Ryan, myself, or any of your local representatives. We are here to help you. We want to educate you. Like I said, that is my first priority, is making sure that everybody knows something new, because what you don't know, you don't know. And we are more than happy to always answer any questions, even run hypothetical scenarios, or even help you with your daily banking needs. We want to be the people that you go to. We really hope that you enjoyed this class today. We've got a link up here. You can go there to schedule your personalized appointment, or reach out to Ryan and I. Again, we're always available and always more than happy to help you guys. I again just appreciate anything you got, Ryan, to add.
No, I think that's 100% right. You know, like I said, I have a kind of a unique position in our bank here. Truthfully, 100%, I am only here because I love helping people. I conduct these classes because I feel joy when I know that I'm actually able to provide some sort of assistance and help to people. And so when we talk about doing a financial wellness checkup, this is something that is not for just our clients who already work at the bank. This is not for special occasions. If it's a situation where you just have a question, just like we're seeing in the chat right now, and you want an answer to it, please feel free to contact me or Riley. This is something that we choose to do. We're not required to do, but we choose to do this because we have a big heart for the people, and we want to make sure that they are not being taken advantage of, but also are helped in the way that they should be. So thank you again to everyone. Michelle, thank you so much. And thank you for being understanding with my crazy situation with my computer. Like I said, no idea what happened
And me
there.
losing internet access for whatever reason. I appreciate all of y'all's patience. I do want to quickly touch on Michael's question. He just said that for those travel internationally and using credit cards, ATMs, etc., other than going to a physical bank, more than machines, any other suggestions other than just letting your bank know where you're traveling to? I'd say that's the number one thing. A lot of banks use algorithms to track where you're spending to try to detect fraud. So if you go ahead and let us know, or if you don't, then we're going to flag you and say, hey, was this you? You'll typically get a text message. you want to make sure to respond to those pretty quickly, either a text or a call, because if not, we're pretty prompt to shut off your card, at least from my
Yep.
experience. I can't think of anything else other than, again, like we talked about, making sure you're being aware of where your personal belongings are, especially internationally. I know that pickpocketing is huge. It's becoming huge here in Nashville. Keep your belongings on you. If, you just need like a $20 bill, again, back of the phone case, put it, in a fanny pack right here so that, if somebody's grabbing that off of you, they're going to have bigger problems than just taking your phone. You know what I mean? So just be mindful of where everything is at and avoiding risks as much as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Appreciate your time. And again, for those of you on the call, the First Horizon is gracious in doing these webinars on different topics for financial health, and we will be scheduling additional ones in the first quarter. So we'll look forward, hopefully, to Ryan and Riley joining us again. But you can look and see additional Nashville SCORE webinars that are available by going to score.org/Nashville and then clicking on Take a Workshop. So thank you all for being here, and may you have wonderful, joyous, and love-filled holidays, and Happy New Year.
Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, Miss Michelle, I'm
Yes.
so sorry I came in late.
Well,
You know-
Riley did a great job of filling in.
I'm so glad. And obviously this was less than ideal of a situation, but I'm so grateful that you guys were so understanding of it. It's strange. This happened to me as well when it came to my meeting regarding we have like a run of show in advance. And yeah, the run of show was an hour earlier to my computer than what it showed. So really strange, but I cannot apologize enough, but I really appreciate you being so understanding.
No problem. Would you be willing to give me your cell number? So if you don't show up in time,
Yes,
I can text you?
of course. Tell you what, let me go ahead. I'll email it to you.
Or you can text it to
'cause
me.
Or I can text it to you.
My number is 615-516-8956.
Beautiful. Okay. I am sending you a text right now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you
And again,
so
have a
much.
wonderful holiday.
You too. You take
Thank
care.
you.
You do good things.
Thank you. And I'll be in touch with Donna about scheduling for next quarter.
Sounds great. Yeah, I always look forward to these, so that's awesome.
Wonderful. Now, what other
Awesome.
topics do you have in the financial health?
Goodness, I'm trying to think of best ones for especially businesses. I'm giving one actually later this week about like buying a home. So that's not best for like maybe businesses. So we talked about credit the time before this. Let me look at my list. Let me just see. Tell you what, let's powwow with Donna on that. Let
I'm
me
sorry?
see, let me powwow with Donna and let me get back to you on like what is probably the best next step when it comes
Excellent.
to next events. Because I
Wonderful.
think what we want to start doing is trying to impart different people within the bank to bring in their specialized knowledge. So for example, like if I have a financial advisor, potentially getting a financial advisor to bring their experience in the financial advising or wealth management department and seeing if we can't have them come speak on their expertise and go from that
Excellent.
direction. So
Yeah, and
I
that
think
would be
that's
great if we could have a financial advisor from the bank talking about okay, you're starting a new business, but
Mhm.
try to prioritize taking care of your family financially, and start
Yeah.
looking at, and, you may not have $10,000 to invest or $100,000 to invest, but there's ways of starting out very slowly so that over
Uh,
time.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of, I know that's where we're kind of wanting to lean towards in 2025. That's what I'm understanding. But worst case scenario, that's something that I can even talk about.
Wonderful.
I've had a lot of experiences with like starting a new business and maintaining the books and the finances around it. So, I don't know. We can try to figure this out. What I want to
Great.
do is make sure it's personalized for you guys. I love what you guys do, and I want to make sure I continue to support it in whatever way I can.
Excellent. We appreciate you, Ryan.
Yes,
Take care.
ma'am. All right, you be well. You take care.
Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye-bye.